Hey, Mr. Grable here. We're going to be going through Go Math 4th grade lesson 2.4. We're estimating products and taking a look at this lesson. It's kind of nice because we go back to rounding and estimating, which is always a good thing to go back through. But a lot of today's lesson is going to focus on story problems, not just manipulating the numbers. So it's really important that we take a look at the story problems and identify what's important and cross off what's not. So let's get started. The problem I want to start off with is about elephants. An elephant can reach as high as 23 feet with its trunk. It uses its trunk to pick up objects that weigh up to 3 times as much as a 165-pound person. About how much weight can an African elephant pick up with its trunk? So right here you'll see that the book's kind of given us some hints of what we need to do. The first step is to cross out the information that you're not going to use. This happens a lot, and I definitely kind of wish that um, on these first problems they don't do this. But we know that lots of times um, we're given information that we don't need. And even though it is super interesting that an elephant can reach 23 feet with its trunk, it's not helping me answer the actual math question here. So, about how much weight can an African elephant, pick up with its trunk? Well, it doesn't really care about how high it can go up. I mean, it's interesting and all, but it's not that important. So you can just cross it off. This is not important. Lots of times we see that 23 and we want to write it down. We are going to have to use this 3 times and a 165-pound person. And I would say this about is really important because we actually don't want the exact answer. Um, and since it's 3 times 165, that's what we're going to do. And right here they round. So it is 3 times 165. We're not finding the exact. We're finding the about the estimate, and we're going to round. So we can round to the hundreds place, and we look next door, and that's 5 or more. So we would raise the score. So it becomes 3 times 200. We can see that right here. And we know that 3 times 2 is 600, right? Remember we practiced this last lesson. Okay. So this is a good way. You could also round it as 3 times 165. You could round to the tens place, I guess. And we see that it's 3 times, well, it's 5 or more, so we raise the score. But right here, this is tough for us, right? Like 3 times 17, we actually haven't gotten to how to solve 3 times 17 to move to 0. So I would kind of hold off on this one until we work on 3 times 17. Um, the other way that I the other way that they show us to do this problem, I really like this another way, um, because it's going to give us a range, and this is really going to help us when we think about checking someone else's estimate. So we have 3 times 165, and you'll see that they just did 3 times 100. They didn't really round; they just kind of like, well, it could be 100 or it could be 200. So 3 times 100 is 300, right? Because 3 times 1 is 3, and then 3 times 2. Well, they did 200 here, right? So it's either going to 165 is going to be 100 or it's going to be 200. Um, and 3 times 200 is 600. So any answer in between these would be a good estimate. All right. So I know this is kind of a lot with the different story problems, but let's take a look at um, just just manipulating the numbers. Okay, just estimating the numbers, and let's take a look at number 5. So I really like finding that range. So find two numbers. Um, the exact answer is in between. So we're going to find that low end and that high end of these problems. Okay, so I'm going to rewrite it. I'm going to write 3 times 567. It's either going to be 500 or it's going to be 600, right? And 3 times 5 is 15, and I'll move the 2 zeros. Okay? 3 times 6 is 1800. So my exact answer is going to be somewhere in between. If we look at number 6, we see that it's in the thousands, and the same idea, but our numbers are just going to be a little bit bigger. So 6 times 7,381. We want to estimate. We want to find kind of the range between the low end and the high end. So I would rewrite 6 times 7,000 or 6 times 8,000. And 6 times 7 is 42, and I move the 3 zeros. 1, 2, 3, comma, and then 6 times 8. 6 times 8 is 48. And then I move the 3 zeros. So my exact answer is going to be in between 42,000 and 48,000. So this is estimating both sides, both of those numbers, the low end and the high end. And then we can really think, is it a good estimate or not? Let's take a look at one of these story problems. Now, these story problems are not super easy. They give us kind of a lot of information, okay? So this first one says, Kira needs to make color copies of a horse show flyer. The printer can make 40 copies in 1 minute. Kira says the printer makes 296 copies in 6 minutes. Complete the explanation for whether the exact answer is reasonable. Reasonable, is it going to make sense? So Kira is saying this printer is going to make 296 copies in 6 minutes. This printer can make 54 copies in 1 minute. Okay, so how about in 6 minutes? How many copies could it make in 6 minutes? So we're going to do 54 times 6. Well, we're estimating, right? Reasonable estimating about. So let's take a look. We're going to break this up into 50 or 60. So let's take a look. There we go. So let's do 50 times 6 and then 60 times 6, right? We know that 54 would round to 50, right? If we're just finding the exact estimate, but we're finding that range. 5 times 6 is 30. Move that 0. And then 6 times 6 is 36. Move that 0. So our estimate is between 300 and 360. So I would say that Kiera's answer is not reasonable because it is not between 300 and 360. Remember, she said 296 copies? So she was not within this range. So, no, I don't think that her estimate or her math is correct. So let's take a look at this second one. It says Jones Elementary is having a car wash to raise money for a community horse show. Each car wash ticket costs $8. Pierre says the school will raise $1,000 if 125 tickets are sold. Is her exact answer reasonable? So once again, we're going to have to find that range. Okay? So she says that 8 tickets times $8 times 125. She's saying 1,000. Well, we have to figure it out. So we're going to figure out the high end and the low end. So 8 times 100 or 8 times 200. 8 times 1 is 8. Move the 2 zeros. 8 Whoops, that underline. 8 times 2 is 16. 1600. She says 1,000, right? Well, 1,000 is in between, right? So Kiera's answer is reasonable because 1,000 is between those two estimates, between 800 and 1,600. So she's good. It falls within that range when we estimate. So she probably did her math correctly. So today's lesson really focuses on estimating products. Remember, use that poster up on the board to help you whether you let it rest or you raise the score. Make sure that you look next to it. Double check your basic math facts and don't forget to just think. And you should be pretty successful. Bye.